So, in this video, we're going to talk about what happens when you stop chasing somebody with an avoidant attachment style. So, first and foremost, it's really important to recognize that all avoidant attachment styles essentially operate in this dynamic of their feelings minus their fears. So, while they can fall in a relationship and have feelings and feel, the infatuation and the romantic feelings towards a partner, they still have these fears that take place. And what we'll often find is that it's once that attachment really forms, once that actual, in the early stages, for example, you may see in the dating stage that an avoidant attachment style, they're not really having too many fears pop up, right? Because there's not a commitment, there's no pressure. You're just getting to know somebody. It's really open ended. And so oftentimes you won't actually see a lot of those different dynamics come up until there's an actual bond built, until there's an attachment formed. And at this point, you'll see that they're operating in this place of their fears popping up because whatever their subconscious associations are to attachment, to connection, that's what ends up being what pops up. So essentially what you'll see is if you look at their childhood, you'll see these subconscious associations that take place because of what attachment and connection meant in childhood. So if attachment and connection meant chaos in childhood, if it meant neglect, if it meant criticism and shaming, these are the deep fears that will arise once an attachment bond has been built. And so, what you'll see is when somebody's starting to process those feelings and having some of those fears come up, if they're also getting chased, they don't have room to process. And something that's super important for all avoidant attachment styles, both fearful avoidant and dismissive avoidant, is that they have space to process how they're feeling and what they're experiencing. And so, if there's this constant dynamic of feelings minus fears, but then there's also engulfment, it only leaves room for them to get really stuck in all of their fears and to not even have room to process their fears out so they can get back into their feeling side of things. And I want to say something that's really important here. This cannot be at the expense of your needs as a person, because if you are in a position where you just disconnect, you just take a huge step back from the relationship, if that person's also not coming towards you to meet your needs, to expand the relationship, to grow the relationship with you, you can get into this tricky dynamic of like two ships passing in the night where they need the space, you take the space because you're trying to give it to them, and then there's no real connection. So when you stop chasing and avoidant, it doesn't mean put up with a relationship dynamic that's not healthy for you, that's not fulfilling to you. There's some really important things I'm going to share here that you want to do. And I'm going to talk about needs here for a moment. As we go into some of the needs and the expression of them to an avoidant, while not chasing them, and some actual constructive strategies you can dig into. If you want to do a much deeper dive into needs as a whole, I have an entire course you can check out just about learning your own needs and how to communicate them for 7 days for free. It's more than enough time to get through a full course. And I'll put the link in the description box below if you want to check it out. And so what we see here is number one, it's going to be really important that you know your needs, right? This not chasing the avoidant can't be like you not having needs in a relationship and you just be, entering into a relationship where there's no connection, no commitment, no showing up. So what you want to be able to do is make sure that you're actually investigating what your needs are, understanding what they are, and communicating them, but then giving space for the avoidant to actually come and meet them. So, what I mean by this is when we communicate needs to an avoidant, if they come in the negative, so if they come in the form of you never do the dishes, you never did XYZ, versus, hey, I could use some support. Do you mind taking a turn to do XYZ, to do the dishes, right? When we communicate in the positive, it lands much more effectively for avoidant attachment styles because they both tend to be quite hypersensitive to criticism. So while you give space, and stop chasing and allow there to be room for that sort of feeling side of things to build, you also want to make sure that you are understanding and identifying what your needs are after investigating them and communicating them, but giving space for those needs to be met. And then what you also want to be able to do is set a deadline, right? You want to define as a person, like, what are my needs? What's important to me in a dynamic? And are these things actually being met? Is there actually momentum towards these things being met? Like, what are my baseline of standards for what I'm willing to accept? And when you can do that and identify those things and then hold space to communicate them, you can actually see, does this person show up? You can actually be the one saying, okay, is this building momentum in the way that I think it's helpful for me? and that I'm feeling fulfilled about. And if not, maybe it's not the right relationship for you. But rather than just being in this constant cycle of chasing, 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 being confused, trying to people please, we need to step out of that. We need to understand what we are looking for as individuals, build a relationship to ourselves, and then take action steps to get there. So hopefully this makes a whole lot of sense for you, and gives you some action steps to start off with. As I mentioned before, if you want to do a deeper dive into needs as a whole, you can check out for free our needs course, Discover, Embrace, and Fulfill Your Personal Needs. It's all about understanding your needs, communicating your needs. You can check this all out for free for 7 days using the link in the description box below. And if you're enjoying this channel, please consider giving a like, a share, or a subscribe. And thank you so much for stopping by and for watching.